When I hear business owners complain consistently about their staff, it's a couple things occur to me. First of all, what's the one commonality amongst all of that? Them. It's their leadership. It's who they are. Why? Because if your staff's underperforming, your staff's not acting well, it's you as a leader that are the issue. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, the man about town in Leeds, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. What's happening, brother?
Yeah. The man about town in Leeds. I was thinking, have you actually ever been to Leeds? But you have, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, I've been to Leeds.
A tour of York, which was a lot of fun. And then I showed you Guy Fawkes, the Guy Fawkes pub.
Yep. You showed me a lot of pubs when I was there.
Yeah, who showed who pubs. And then, we ended up in Leeds. So, the man about town in Leeds. If there's any listeners who are in and around Leeds, I'm sure you're giggling at this as well, the man about town in Leeds. I'm doing great. Good.
I caught you off guard there, didn't I? I like that.
Having a lot of fun today. Yeah.
So, Tim, I want to talk about a question. We get a lot of the guys, you and I own businesses. We have staff. We get a lot of guys that are just complaining about their staff. But I'm going to lay it down like this. Guys, it's not your staff that's the problem. It's you. It's you.
Talk about going in softly, Doug.
I'm not known for going in softly. Any of the guys that have done coaching know that right away. I just tell it like it is and how I see it. So you guys can have some optics. But look, you're business leaders. And I look at you guys who are business leaders listening to this. You are the solution, I believe, to the problems we face in this world. And as such, I'm going to tell you straight. And I'm going to tell you exactly how I see it. And I've had the fortune, Tim, of working with thousands of business owners, as you have, thousands over the years, decades at this point. And, when I hear business owners complain consistently about their staff, it's a couple things occur to me. First of all, what's the one commonality amongst all of that? Them. It's their leadership. It's who they are. Why? Because if your staff's underperforming, your staff's not acting well, it's you as a leader that are the issue. You've either trained them to work the way they're working, you've trained them to treat you the way that they're treating you, and you've tolerated it, right? You've tolerated their acts and their issues. In fact, we have one man who's just joined the Brotherhood recently. I won't say his name, but we had a call with him and the rest of the guys. And he said, you know what? After going through the Alpha Reset, what I noticed is I was this chill, kickback guy at work, the guy that everybody loved, and he's the owner. And then when I go home, I was this, more of a tyrant. I take my anger out of things that were happening with my family. And then he went through the reset and, he did a reset, realigned, and moved forward with purpose. And, two paths, one destination. He went forward, and now he's the chill, loving guy at home. And at work, he just keeps people accountable. You said you're going to do X, but you did Y. What's going on? And what happens when that happens, when a leader becomes realigned with themselves and their purpose, when they start holding the people around them at work accountable for their integrity and their actions, one of two things happens. One is everybody steps in line and they get stuff done. The business explodes. Two, right? The second thing that happens is people do not want to be held accountable, and they've been hiding, right? They've been hiding. They've been watching movies at work. They're watching Netflix and they're doing that. They're chilling while they're getting paid. They're taking your money. And then when you hold them accountable, they freak out and they leave. They panic. They create some kind of disruption usually, and they blame it on stuff, but that's really their own insecurities. But ultimately, Tim, that comes down to the leader, you, the business owner. So if you're going to complain to me about your staff, it's okay to do it every once in a while. And I might even listen a little bit. But if you start complaining regularly, then I'm going to tell you right away, it's not your staff that's the problem, it's you. If your staff have consistent problems, you need to either get new staff, get new training, and always work on your leadership. As a leader, it's not something you go to. It's like the gym. You don't go one day on Wednesday, well, let's go Monday because Monday's International Bench Press Day for us guys, right? Every guy's bench pressing chest. You don't go
Friday's
one
International
day.
Bicep Day.
Yeah, a bicep day. It's beach muscle day, right? Chest and biceps. You're doing antagonist today. So it's not that day where you go one day, get a pump, and you never go back. Like leadership training as a business owner is consistent. You need to find your style. There's all kinds of things we can talk about here. But if you're sitting here and you're listening to my voice, one, if I'm pissing you off, then it's definitely you, right? Two, if you're like, wow, I complain about my staff often. I complain to my partner. I complain to my friends. I complain to other business owners. I'm here to tell you it's not your staff that's an issue. It just isn't. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be the guy that tells you if you look fat in those jeans, if you ask me, right? The truth is it's you as the leader that's the problem. And it's time for you to get reset and realigned.
Glad I've never asked you if I look fat in these jeans. And there's, as you're just saying, look, there's one of two things that'll happen with your staff. Some will either hide because they don't like being held accountable and fall away. Others will, rise. Well, he didn't say rise, but the business will explode. There's a third option as well. And that option is that some people will actually rise to the accountability. And what you'll end up seeing is who your key players really are.
Yep.
Who can really handle the pressure? Who can you really turn to grow the organization for you? Who is really bought into the vision of the company and the culture that you want to instill? It may mean that there's a little bit of rebuilding that you get to do within the company, but wouldn't you rather figure that out now than continue to be a slave to your business? If you are a slave to your business, I mean, I was speaking to a business owner on Friday last week, and he owns a manufacturing plant. And the company does really well, multi-million-dollar company. He started the company, but his wife said to him, because his daughters are about to leave home, they've left college, and one of them's just got engaged, and she's about to leave home, and then there'll be no children at home. So his wife turned to him and said, look, I'm really worried when the kids move out. What's going to happen to us? Because she feels that the only thing really binding them right now is the kids. She also works in the business. And he said, Tim, it's just so difficult for me, though, because I want to be present with my wife, but every decision's got to go through me. So at 11 o'clock, he's still taking calls. And it's just driving a wedge between him and his wife. And what it came down to was the fact that obviously he's got staff in place, but he doesn't trust the staff to execute upon certain tasks in the appropriate manner. And the reason why he doesn't trust them is because they have not been proven that they can do that. And the reason why they have not proven they can do that is because he always saves them. And the reason why he always saves them and they never have to figure out and rise is because he is so terrified of the business failing and then looking like a failure and not being good enough and how he will be perceived. So he's constantly in this scenario of spinning these plates, running from plate to plate, keeping them all going, but he just can't do it. It's coming at the cost of his personal life. Now, what the great thing is about this particular man, because we've seen this scenario many times we've seen this scenario. We spoke on the last episode about Rick, going into the office. His business doesn't really need him, he's annoying his staff. 6 months ago or 7 months ago, Rick would go into the office, deliver a sales meeting to the team, and then go into his office and waste 3 hours on social media, staring at the screen, avoiding doing what really had to be done to move the needle and to lead the team. And as a result, what happened? The business was stagnating and there was no leadership there. So it wasn't growing and he was taking work home with him and, so on. You know how it goes. And the shift Rick has made in order to get his business in a position where out of the past 8 weeks, he's taken 5 weeks off, come back, and he still doesn't have a backlog of work. It's all been taken care of for him. The shift is in how he leads. And there's a commonality, Doug. I don't know if you know this, but I was interviewing one of the guys in the Brotherhood on Friday for how he did it. And I think it's the particular guy that you are talking about. And I'll say his name because we interviewed him, so it's all good. It was Mike. Is that who you were talking about at the beginning?
It's one of our mics. Yes.
Okay, one of our Mics. Perfect. Yes, 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 yes. So anyway, when I was interviewing Mike, he was telling me how he has now set goals with all of his team. Not just goals for the company, but he's invited them to set goals for their personal life as well, their health, their relationships, just overall goals. And as a result, the productivity has gone up in the office because the staff are so much happier outside of the workplace as well, and also feel so much more supported by the business owner. And the common theme here, because Rick did something similar and a few of the other guys have, it's almost like when the men really take ownership of their leadership, their companies almost transform into these personal development companies that just so happen to be flooring companies or just so happen to sell IT solutions or just so happen to whatever. Because the business leader is developing himself so much and seeing such a return on investment in his own growth that it's almost like, well, hang on a minute. What if I brought the staff in on this? Imagine 10 of them doing this. And it just has an exponential result.
Hey, sorry to interrupt the show, but I wanted to ask you a question. Do you ever feel like something's just missing? Like there's something more out there and you just can't put your finger on it? I totally get it. Go over right now to thepowerfulman.com/freedom to discover the system that other businessmen just like you are using. We've included 10 case studies, 10 men just like you who have found the solution and have found their way on their path. And we want to share that with you. Go over to thepowerfulman.com/freedom right away. Now let's get back to the show.
It's so true. And it's so funny you say that because, commonality among all the men that come through the program is twofold. One is they want to pay it forward, right? They want to help other men who are in their position, because it's become so clear to them like, oh, crap, I was in this muck for so long that I didn't even realize how bad it had gotten because I got so used to it. And then when they go through the alpha reset and they reset and kind of realign and move forward, then they want to help other men, other guys, and women too, right? We've got a couple guys that have taken their wives and other women through mini alpha resets and trainings, which is always funny, especially when you actually know what goes on there to see happen. But also the other thing that happens is they actually realize that their best gift is coaching their staff, right? If you've hired right, if you've hired people who have integrity and have the skill sets necessary to do the job, well, what if you made them, instead of just like some rough car running down the road, your coaching was like high performance, super tuning like a mechanic to make them a race car, right? You make the staff like a race car. You work on them, developing them as individuals so they can come back to the office and fill their cup by working more, being more proficient. I mean, Tim, you look at some of the biggest companies in the world. I'll use Google, Apple, and you can use anything else. I know a number of people, Exxon, right? Just for differences. They dedicate so much money to personal development of their staff, especially their key leaders, that it's absolutely ridiculous. Not uncommon for executives and CEOs of big companies to spend high six figures in personal and development on themselves, let alone their key players and key people. So men, when you think about this, really as being a leader, you want to be reinvesting and coaching your team because you want them out there playing at the highest level. When they're playing at their highest level, your business is going to increase. Your productivity and your revenue will increase dramatically, all while taking work off your plate, thus taking stress off your plate and things like that. And then guess what? You can stop complaining about your staff because it's you, right? You've decided to take the ownership, the leadership to coach your team and move them forward and give them what's really needed. And so, yes, I went direct at you at the beginning of this podcast, and I'm coming back at you again, but I'm coming back at you with, hopefully you've gotten a little clarity around this, that you are the commonality, right? Your company will only rise as high as you. That's why oftentimes founders step aside and let a CEO take over. Really common with business, right? The founder takes it to a certain point. Then, if they can set their ego aside, they bring in a CEO who's more qualified to take the company to the next level. Very, very, very common. They still stay in the company, but they do it. The same thing is with you, right? It's your job to rise to the occasion. And as you keep rising, so will the people around you. And as Tim said, they'll do one of two things. They'll rise to the occasion, or they'll fall off because they can't keep up.
I think it's Zappos as well, which their head office is overlooking the beach. I can't remember where it is. It's on the west coast somewhere, west coast of the US. I think it might be in California. I want to say that California is massive. But anyway, point being is that the owner of Zappos, Tony Hsieh, I think you pronounce his name as, he's big into surfing. So the office overlooking the ocean, what happens is when the surf is up, all staff have the permission to go out and catch the waves whilst the surf is up. And the agreement is, as long as you get your tasks done and you hit your KPIs and you're performing, then really I don't care how you get there, as long as you get there. If that means that you come into the office and you're out of the office for 2 hours surfing, then great. But what actually has happened in that company, that was one of the fastest companies to reach, I think, $1 billion, was it? One of the fastest growing and grossing companies of its time and within its industry as well. And the productivity of the staff, the retention of the staff, the efficiency of the company, everything was through the roof. Because that's almost like his way of saying, look, I value you as an individual, not an employee. I value you as an individual. We've got mutual respect here, and I want to invest into you. Albeit, going out and surfing, but I trust you to go out there, surf, come back in and get the job done. Now, in order for him to be able to have that kind of leadership, do you think that he has done any work on himself?
Yeah.
Any personal development and any growth? The top leaders always do, because they do recognize that it all starts with them. Everything in their life, not just their staff, everything starts with them. Because if you're going to blame your staff that they're the problem, the chances are you're going to walk through the door and blame your wife as well, that it's her problem that you're not as connected, or your sex life isn't where you want it to be, or you might blame your kids for things, or whatever. It continues. It's a habit and a way of looking at things. Whereas on the flip side, when you take ownership of it, you then take ownership of every area of your life as well. And as we know, everything's touching. So then as you start to take ownership in one area, you do it in others, and everything starts to rise.
Beautifully said. Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. So Tony Hsieh, they're actually in Vegas. So, but they do some amazing things over at Zappos with employees. One of the things they do is, I think it's $10,000, right? Would you rather have $10,000? We'll give you $10,000 right now not to take this job when they hire somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Which is amazing. Awesome. So, yeah, you're talking about, I'm going to mess up his name, but it's Yvon Chouinard, and he was the founder of Patagonia, which is an amazing leader, right? They led the 1% for the planet. But I know that just because I was in Santa Barbara, California for 20 years, and they're in the next town down from me. And I know people who worked for him, and said it's really true. If the surf's up, you go. It's in Ventura, California. You go to the beach, and at the same time, he takes half of his year and goes fishing, right? He's the CEO, the owner, the founder of this gigantic company, Patagonia, which everybody listening has heard of. And so he tells his employees to do the same. So he's living by example while he's coaching them. And as you said, Tony does the same thing with his business. The list can go on and on and on. The key here, Tim, I think what we're both saying is it's up to the leader, right? If you're complaining about your staff, really what you're telling me is, Doug, I'm not taking ownership for my business, I'm not being an effective leader, and I'm not coaching myself. I can guarantee it. I can guarantee there's not one person listening to this who is really, really working, well, maybe not with the right people, but working on themselves and their business leadership that is consistently complaining about their staff. If you're working with the best coaches, they're going to tell you it's one of two things. You either up-level your game and the staff rises or falls off, or you get rid of the staff, right? You get rid of the people you're complaining about because they're not a right fit for your company or your culture. Right? Those are the two things, your company or your culture. It's very rarely about money. Very rarely. Everybody seems to focus on that for some reason because that's the easy point, but it's very rarely about money if you're meeting all of the other needs that an individual wants. And that comes down to leadership.
Yeah, totally. I think it's John Maxwell talks about being a level 5 leader, which is all about people follow you because of the vision that you have and how you live it. It's got nothing to do with how you delegate or, how you communicate. Well, there's a little bit of that, but a lot more to do with the fact, like the guy from Patagonia, I can't remember his name, but he's living it. He's living it by example. So as a result, people want to follow him because it's authentic. It's true. So they know they can trust him. It's all about being a level 5 leader.
Yeah. And trust is a huge thing. And if you're complaining about somebody, right? So it's the same thing with gossip, right? So Tim, if I start gossiping about people around me to you, subconsciously or consciously, you're going to be like, wait a minute, Doug's obviously gossiping about me when I'm not around. The same thing happens as leadership. If you're complaining about your staff, right? We know that you're complaining about other areas of your life out there. And you're really playing the victim card here, guys. You're playing a victim. What? You're going to go home, whine to mommy, be a victim if that's what you want to do, right? One complaint here and there, cool. But if you're going to be doing it consistently, it's like you're complaining that someone took your ball and went home. And you're going to go home and pound the pillows, right? Or whatever you're going to do to throw a tantrum. Don't do that, right? This is time for you to step up as a leader, as a powerful man. Get a reset. Find your true north. Get secured like we talked about, Mike. Get secured in your power where you stand. And you're going to watch the people around you rise. And like I said, one or two typically in my experience doing consulting, they fall off. And those people have been leeches in your business anyway. They're sucking revenue, they're sucking productivity, and they're like a cancer that everybody else knows about. But you as a leader haven't found them yet. And this is your time to do it. So, if you're complaining about your staff is not the problem. It's you. Now in the moment of clarity, it's time to take action. Right now, in this moment of clarity, decide, is this me that's been complaining about my staff? And be honest, guys. Is it you? If it is, this is time for you to reset, right? Reset, reclaim yourself, and then find your true north and move forward with passion. That's the key. You got one shot at this. And as a business owner, I'm counting on you to make our world a better place by making your business and your work environment better. But most of all, you're a leader. You're a leader in your company, you're a leader in your family, and you're a leader in your community. It's up to us, guys. It's up to us to make the world a better place for ourselves, for our families, and for other generations.
Well said.
All right, gentlemen, that's another episode of The Powerful Man Show. Until next time, have an amazing day. And remember, take action. We'll see you next time.